And right now, what is most relevant is how to be a really beneficial embodied human. That's my experiment. I want to cultivate my soul in these different ways in this human experience because it's so finite. And so for the different times and the different parts of my life when I was so excited about living most of my life out there, whether that was in the unseen or whether that was in the stars, that also was because it was so painful to be here and to be human. Hello everyone, my name is Bridget, and today we're going to be talking about where I'm at with my spiritual philosophy, with life, and thus the direction of this channel. And this is a secondary part 2 to my recent video, 13 years on YouTube, where I was talking about dismantling a lot of past identities that I've had here and in my life. And so this is just a very necessary and appropriate next step to share where I'm at with everything right now. And because I have spoken about so many things over the years, to share where I'm at now, especially because in the world, there's a lot of people moving in all different directions, right? Going from like New Age to Christianity to here to there. And so where am I and what is my foundation, which I feel like is a very fair and interesting question if you're going to be listening to me or receiving any kind of like guidance with what I have to offer. To begin, this is a very big topic, and I can't begin to just sum this up necessarily in like 8 to 10 minutes, but I'm going to do my best to just give a general overview of what I feel like is the most relevant to share, not going into a ton of different specific topics, but where the overarching core of me is moving, the tide of my essence, and the real bedrock foundation of where I'm at philosophically, spiritually, is based in values, virtues, and principles. And some of these values and principles, as I was thinking about it, and I was about to speak and say, I believe, I realized many of them move more into the realm of just truth. That could be, say, scientifically backed, but also is just a universal truth. And so to say, I believe, is an interesting thing because often like belief comes with not seeing, but many of these things can be seen. They're just intrinsic to how life works. And so one of the first things is interdependence, and that all things and all of life is deeply connected to each other and deeply needs each other, and that each thing serves a purpose. So I follow more of the animist viewpoint, is that all things are alive and conscious, and that is deeply in my visceral experience, even when I was little and I grew up at the base of these huge granite rocky mountains. I felt their living presence. And so then it starts to go into the realm of spirit, right? Where it's like, that's unseen. But this idea that everything is alive, and thus because everything is alive, there's an interdependence and connection to all things. And so because of that, I am very devoted to the sustaining of life and thus creation. And so any behaviors or values or virtues that are in alignment with things that perpetuate life is the direction that I'm going. There's a lot of things and behaviors and ways of being that destroy, and that is a natural energy in the world as well, but there is more destruction than creation, and so my devotion is towards creation. When something in its heart of hearts or in its pure principle serves you, or one would know that it's at a place of principle, because that which is good for the benefit of the one is good for the benefit of the all. And so I think of, say, like an organic piece of clothing. That's good for our bodies, that's good for our health, and that's good for the health of the planet, right? It's good for everyone. And so what are those things that are beneficial to all? And so orienting myself energetically, emotionally, and in my actions with that is a principle that I am in a constant practice of moving towards. It's very much a practice because there's so many different programs emotional patterns and ways of being that are just highly destructive. And then it goes into like a very deep thing of, well, then can I even buy this sauerkraut in a thing of plastic or glass, and then I have to throw that away? It can go really, really far. And so just generally that orientation towards creation would be my aim. And again, to somehow sum this up in a couple of minutes, following all of the different virtues, which there's pretty much universal virtues that go through Christianity, that go through the Eastern religions, and just general spiritual thought as well. So any of those virtues, and then life-giving principles such as the principles of reciprocity, of complementarity, that sustained indigenous peoples and the natural landscape for hundreds and thousands of years before more of the destructive patterns of forgetfulness of this interdependence and necessity to take care of one another came into place during colonization of the planet on lots of different levels through many different levels of history. So I would say that's the foundation bedrock of where things are springing forth from. And so then within that, when we talk about New Age or Christianity or these different things, and for me, in an individual perspective, looking at soul, I very much so see that spirit or the unseen becomes what manifests, becomes physical matter. And so that process of our thoughts and words and actions then manifest into physical reality. And so for me, the soul life is, how can I orient to beneficial thoughts, words, and actions to then again be a part of creation and be supportive of that flow of life. And I believe that in doing so, that cultivates soul virtue, which is, again, in my belief or opinion, one of the reasons that we came here is to explore this physical reality and this dance between spirit and materiality and how we navigate that within the human perspective. And so part of that is that being here as a human is to be here as a human and to experience what humanity really means and all of the facets of that, and experience it. Experience the letting go, experience the surrender, experience the bliss, the connection. And to do that, I see that embodying the soul and bringing that spirit into matter is a very powerful expression and way of living and creating and expressing as an embodied human in this incarnation. So that's a little bit on that personal level. And then on the spiritual aspect, I see New Age spirituality as an amalgamation of a lot of different things, of the through thread of most religions or different spiritual philosophies, of mysticism, of paganism, and it's just this mix of a bunch of it. And that doesn't really have inherent in it a rooted structure or path. And I can see that a lot of people thus are needing more certainty and more almost simplicity and clarity to go towards realization or enlightenment. And so they're going towards Christianity. And I already filmed a video actually on my perspective of Christianity and where I'm at with it. And to begin, I believe that there are many beautiful paths to God, many beautiful paths to enlightenment, to self-realization. And there is so much beauty and so much treasure in all of the paths. And I have traveled and met far too many beautiful and deeply spiritual people from many different traditions to say that just one way is the right way. And for me personally, I grew up in a very religious, dogmatic culture and was in lots of different Christian and Mormon circles. And for me, this incarnation, and it's just very clear, part of the theme is actually deprogramming a lot of the religious dogma. And while I very much so love and appreciate the core spirit behind Christianity and of course Jesus himself, that organized religion part has a lot of shadow that isn't my path in this life. So we can talk about that more. I have a video on that, but just to say, I honor everyone's paths again, but this is where I'm at. Now, as far as all of the more fun and entertaining aspects of spirituality, be it angels, aliens, ghosts, the unseen, past lives, all of those things, I still see and experience them as very real. It's just a matter of relevancy. So I have been very impacted in the past many years by Dan Winter, by different indigenous peoples that I've worked with, by true elders that have oriented me more on this path, which is very much so a homecoming of truths that I knew from a very young age. And so much of what I've already talked about, like, my love of nature and of spirit and all of these different things. And so it's just a matter of relevancy. Right now, what is most relevant is how to be a really beneficial embodied human. That's my experiment. I want to cultivate my soul in these different ways in this human experience because it's so finite. And so for the different times and the different parts of my life when I was so excited about living most of my life out there, whether that was in the unseen or whether that was in the stars, that also was because it was so painful to be here and to be human. And so as I've faced those different things, as I've moved through different levels of trauma and such, it's gotten much more yummy to be in my body and to be here and to be human and to relate with other humans and to be on Earth. It's really exciting and beautiful to me. And so that is thus less relevant to particularly this human game that I'm playing in this particular time, say, of my life. But of course, the unseen is always playing and dancing with us. And so when relevant, sure, I have these different dreams or I have these different experiences. I cleared a poltergeist in a house like a month ago that came up unexpectedly. Just things happen. And so I'm interacting with the unseen. And at this time, and it feels like for the rest of this incarnation, I'm really curious how I can be a very good and beneficial human. And one of the reasons for that is because, funny enough, in my spiritual experiences out there, I experienced time in a very different way. And so, for instance, I went to Petrified Forest National Park in northern Arizona with my friends a year ago, and I felt what it was like for an ancient forest to become a crystal, like to move into then becoming a rock, like to change form, and how long, those millions of years it took to change form. And then I play with these different living ancient teas from China and different plants that I love because I love herbalism. And I experience the world through these different elementals or through these different spiritual beings and see time in a very different way. And what that's done is that's recontextualized my human experience to realize that it's so precious. Like, this human life is so precious. And even though it can be very challenging and very hard, all the facets of being human, it's so miraculous. And thus, a big part of my practice is really staying as present to this moment and to who I'm with or what I'm experiencing as possible, no matter what it is, and staying as grateful for this experience as possible because it's short. Like, even if I get the opportunity to live, say, another 60 years or something, that's not very much time. And this is such a beautiful place. And there's so many experiences to be had and people to be met and love to be made and friends to deepen with, right? So that's informing me as well, is seeing time in a different way that inspires me to make the most of this experience here and now. And the last piece that is inclusive of the energy of life-giving creation as a very devotional aim for me is the intrinsic nature, particularly of the masculine principle and the feminine principle. And because I'm incarnated as a woman, I experience what it's like to have that feminine principle alive within me, that creation alive within me, and how important and essential it is to sustain and maintain going forward in this point in history where talks are being had of babies being born, say, outside of the womb, like in test tubes, and that mothers or women don't matter anymore, or that all these roles can just be changed. And there's deep human intrinsic needs to humans, and also those things affect nature and the sustaining of the planet itself. And so those things are also very important to me. And I do find it very beautiful and interesting that my exploration in the stars really was a portending, a foreshadowing of this time now, where our future self, us, as these humans, are really sailing towards technology or sailing towards not needing these things. And if there's anything that my experiences or connection with the galactics taught me, is that it's essential. Like, our humanness is essential. Our emotions are essential. The way that we bond is essential for us as a species. And there's no amount of technology, there's no amount of these other things. Sure, it might sustain for a generation or a couple generations, but it's not something that can stand the test of time for, say, 1,000 generations. And again, same thing. Sure, we can go to Mars or we can go to these other places, but the Earth is something that can sustain us for a long time if we take care of her. So I've been on a long journey flying out into orbit, and then I'm coming back in like a boomerang to this place here and now, to my body here and now, to this planet here and now, to the humans that I'm talking to, you here and now. And that's the place where I am interested in exploring. And that could change, though I do feel that this is a very strong foundational basis that I will continue with and return to. If we tune back in a decade, I would say, yeah, I'm still here at the same place, and we're just deepening into what this is. So wherever it's relevant, those fanciful things and very interesting and dynamic pieces that are out there and unseen as relevant, I absolutely will continue to incorporate into this channel, into my work. And I'm here for the human experience. I'm here to do my very best to be in a process and practice of embodying what it means to be a beneficial human and to live out my soul's purpose in this human expression. So those are the bits. That's where I'm at. This is a kind of a strange video to make, but I appreciate the opportunity, because I notice when I'm watching YouTube or watching media, a lot of people don't speak from I and like where I am. They'll say, when you're doing this movie, and it's like, no, I like speak from I. And so it's a great opportunity for me to speak from I and to be clear of what I stand for and the direction that I'm aligned with. And it's also strange talking to a camera right now. So please comment below. Let me know where you're at. Let me know what you're aligned with, what you believe, what resonates with you, what you feel is significant and life-giving to you. And this sums up my update on this channel, and now we can go into deeper topics. So if there's any topics specifically that you'd like me to go into, please comment below. And to make sure that we stay connected, be sure to go download my free soul embodiment meditation down below, and then we can stay in touch no matter what happens with the algorithms or things in times to come. So be sure to go get that. And of course, if you're not subscribed, hit the bell button, subscribe, like, do all those things for the algorithm to keep showing this to you, and I'll keep coming back. Thanks so much. Bye.